Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Today is Warcraft Monday, and I've decided to watch another Platinum WoW video. This one is called Stratholme's Tragic Fate. Yep, or going to the city that had to be purged. If you want to check out my previous reactions, I'll put the Warcraft Mondays playlist at the top here. Just click on it and you'll be able to access it. Alright, let's start. 3, 2, 1, go.
Stratholme is a blight on the Eastern Kingdom. The flames of the city constantly burn with a reminder of the insidious acts that took place in the Cursed Kingdom. The story of how this land fell from grace is dramatic, harrowing, and a critical part of the history of Warcraft. Stratholme used to be a pretty bitchin' town. It was the second largest city in the Kingdom of Lordaeron, the city of Lordaeron being the biggest, of course, but Stratholme was well known for being a port town for the kingdom and establishing some of the oldest temples for the Church of the Holy Light. Stratholme was where the Knights of the Silver Hand were founded, who are big, strong, important paladins of the light. And
Wait, okay, so Stratholme had a force protecting the city. They had paladins. Why weren't they there to defend the city when it was being burnt by Arthas? Or maybe they were there, but then they were overwhelmed by Arthas and his forces. Probably that's what happened. Yeah.
probably the most important feature of Stratholme was a zoo. That's right, I'm not joking. Stratholme had a zoo that probably had some tigers and elephants and probably some caged up gnomes. But everything wasn't happy-go-lucky in Stratholme for long. Kel'Thuzad, the leader of the Cult of the Damned, who are a cult that worshipped a scourge, was tasked with a mission of spreading the plague of undeath across the kingdom of Lordaeron. Kel'Thuzad, Mal'Ganis, and a bunch of their cultist friends shipped plague-infected grain to the surrounding regions of Stratholme to infect as many civilians as possible. The symptoms of the Plague of Undeath are coughing, sneezing, and dying within 3 days and rising as a zombie that is easily manipulated by the Lich King. So, it's not too pleasant of a disease. Arthas, the Prince of Lordaeron, caught wind of the infected grain being distributed from Anderhall, and with the help of Jaina, they destroyed some silos and killed Kel'Thuzad.
Oh my dude, you just got pranked! Bet you didn't see that one coming, huh?
Soon after, Arthas, Jaina, and now Uther traveled to Stratholme and quickly realized it was too late. And now, for a dramatic retelling of the Culling of Stratholme.
Glad you could make it, Uther.
Watch your tone with me, boy. You may be the prince, but I'm still your superior as paladin.
As if I could forget.
That is so convincing. That is so convincing. Okay, I'm liking this.
Listen, Uther, there's something about the plague you should know. Oh, no, it's too late. These people have all been infected. They may look fine now, but it's a matter of time before they turn into the undead.
What?
This entire city must be purged.
How can you even consider that? There's gotta be some other way!
Dang it, Uther. As a future king, I order you to purge this city.
You are not my king yet, boy. Nor would I obey that command if you were.
Then I must consider this an act of treason.
Treason? Have you lost your mind, Arthas?
Have I? Lord Uther, by my right of succession and sovereignty of my crown, I hereby relieve you from your command, and suspend your paladins from service.
Arthas, you can't just...
It's done. Those of you who have the will to save this land, follow me. The rest of you, get out of my sight.
I remember watching this on Warcraft 3 Reforged. how Arthas just said those words to his longtime friend and mentor, Uther. It was weird. The way he just flipped just like that, 360. Oh man.
You've just crossed a terrible threshold, Arthas.
Jaina?
I'm sorry. I can't watch you do this. I'm sorry. I can't.
And so, Arthas went with a small group of soldiers and just killed everybody. Men, women, children, babies, all civilians of his own kingdom. It was a slaughter, and at the end of Arthas' cleansing, Mal'Ganis shows up and is all like,
I am Mal'Ganis. I am eternal.
Now come with me to Northrend. Tee.
Arthas chased Mal'Ganis into Northrend. Just a lot of stuff happened, and Arthas became the Lich King. That's just a story for another time. The Culling of Stratholme is one of the best parts in Warcraft lore because it gives the audience something to think about. Is killing unaware innocent civilians for the safety of the kingdom a good idea? What if a cure is created? Would it be easier to kill them when they become zombies, seeing as more soldiers would feel it was a morally right thing to do? Did the plague really spread to every single civilian? And perhaps the mental strain of killing his own people led Arthas to the more radical decisions that eventually made him the Lich King.
I think I've discussed about this before when I was watching Warcraft 3 Reforged, that Arthas should have just waited. He should have just waited just to see the progression of the illness. If there are people who are infected, they will die and they will come back as zombies. Those who have not gone through that process, they can be rescued, they can be put aside while him and his forces deal with the undead. That's what should have happened. But instead he went on an entire blanket approach. Everybody needs to be purged, everybody needs to die. Yeah, that was like a bad call, but what can be done now? It's too late.
The Culling of Stratholme is a lesson in excellent storytelling because it puts you in Arthas' shoes when making this tough decision. After Arthas left, Stratholme was in burnt ruins and was eventually populated by more Scourge. Even to this day, the buildings still burn with haunted fire as a reminder of the horrible events that took place. The ruins of Stratholme are now split into two sides, the living and dead. First, we're going to talk about the living. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot of ghostly citizens whose spirits linger after the culling. There are neutral spirits.
They didn't go to the Shadowlands? What are they still doing here? No, man. The Arbiter was still active during that time. So, why are they still here? Why are they still here?
Spirits that will try and kill you if provoked, but are susceptible to fantastic dance moves that stop them from being hostile. Notable civilians of Stratholme are people like Frasabi. He owned a sweet tobacco and vape shop that had a robot and a bunch of hookahs, and he died doing what he loved, ripping fat clouds. There's also people like Hearthsinger Forston, who is a flamboyant piccolo player who drops a rainbow girdle and his prized piccolo.
What is this dance? Is it like a World of Warcraft dance? I don't know. It's so funny. I've seen it so many times, but I just never really understood, like, why.
But my favorite has to be Postmaster Malone, and we don't really know much about this guy, we just know he's a mailman. But in the dungeon journal, his description reads that he's been fucking hoes and poppin' pillies, and he feels just like a rock star. I don't really know what that means. If you guys know, I'd love to know. There's also a ghost that simply goes by the Unforgiven, who is one of the paladins that killed civilians with Arthas, and her sanity was in a downward spiral of guilt, causing her to fall on her own blade and haunt the city that she destroyed. Speaking of depressing, Timmy the Cruel is a ghoul that is well known for being gruesome in battle, and his brutality stems from being bullied as a kid. Now that he's been reborn as an undead monster, he continues to enact the same savagery on his victims.
Oh my god, they killed Kenny! You bastard!
Moving on, I can finally explain why this is called the live side of Stratholme. The Scarlet Crusade, religious fanatics who obsess over the eradication of undead and anyone who isn't a part of the Scarlet Crusade, have set up shop at a fortress they call the Scarlet Bastion. This is the building where the Knights of the Silver Hand were originally founded, and the members that are stationed here are called the Crimson Legion, elite members of the organization, and their strategic decision is to have their base in the middle of an undead-infested city, which is a questionable choice at best. Other than that,
maybe it's to test the new recruits, or it's like the perfect undead natural defense should they be attacked by any foreign invaders or something. I don't know. But it is kind of weird that they put their entire organization at the center of the town.
There's not much to talk about with this stronghold, other than that this is where we fight Balnazar, who is the Dreadlord that is pretending to be the leader of the Scarlet Crusade as Satan Dathrahand. I go over the origins of the Scarlet Crusade in an older video, so I won't be repeating myself here. The undead side of Stratholme is much like the living side, except it's a lot more spookier. On this side of the city, there are multiple buildings called ziggurats that are protected by formidable scourge foes. Baroness Anastari is a banshee that possesses victims' bodies. Malik the Pallid is a mage who is one of the first to join the Cult of the Damned, and Anubranak is just a horrifying spider. But the undead aren't the only things trying to murder you here either, because there are some furry little plague-infested creatures looking to rip apart your flesh as well.
Rats, we're rats, we're the rats. We pray at night, we stalk at night, we're the rats.
As we reach closer to the end of the dungeon, we meet Magistrate Bathulus, who plays an important part in Tyrion's exile, which is explained in the Book of Blood and Honor. At some point, Arthas returned back to Stratholme and raised Bathulus to personally serve as a guard of the Cursed Kingdom. Travel further and we'll reach the near end of the dungeon, to a place called the Slaughtered Square, to fight one of the most intimidating members of the Scourge, Rammstein. Rammstein, der Fleshlinger.
The one that killed Nathanos, right? I think that's the one.
Ist denn ein Monstrosität, die dafür verantwortlich ist, Nathanos getötet zu haben. Nathanos jagte Rammstein durch die Plässländer, aber die Monstrosität floh nach Stratholme. With that fat boy dead, we can make our way into the slaughterhouse to face Baron Rivendare, the master of Stratholme. Rivendare used to be a rich landowner of Stratholme and was best bros with Kel'Thuzad, who convinced him to join the Cult of the Damned. After Arthas left for Northrend, Rivendare sent some plague grain to a village in Lordaeron, and Thomas Thompson, a paladin protecting the village, put two and two together and realized it was Rivendare's doing. Thomas gathered a group of Silverhand paladins and just beat the snot out of Rivendare.
I'm joking! Stop!
Fight back, Rivendell, fight back.
He died, and at some point Rivendare was raised as a Death Knight with his favorite horsey and was tasked with keeping watch over Stratholme. Aureus Rivendare is Baron's son, who is a paladin, and if we give him an item called the Medallion of Faith, he will help us kill his father. Unfortunately, during the battle, Aureus dies, and later on in the lore, he's raised as a Death Knight and is the last boss of Stratholme instead. But back to classic. We defeat Baron Rivendare, but he doesn't actually die, I guess. Instead, he's one of the 4 horsemen in the Wrath of the Lich King version of Naxxramas. Naxxramas was also a raid in Classic, and I kind of forgot to mention that this whole time, Naxxramas, a monolithic floating Scourge fortress leaked.
That is not Scourge. That comes from Eldraxis. That necropolis was stolen. Huh? Kalthazard, you should be under arrest for stealing property that does not belong to you.
Leaking undead goo below it is kind of just looming over Stratholme this whole time. So that's happening too. But that's a story for another time. Thank you for joining me as we explore the spooky history of Stratholme, and join me in the future as we continue to learn about the history behind the dungeons of Classic WoW.
And thank you so much for watching Platinum's video. You can support him by checking out his Patreon. So as to be able to do cool stuff like this. Give it to me.
Yes, guys, that was Stratholme's Tragic Fate by platinumwow. Yeah, it's quite interesting to go back to what happened to Stratholme and how the decisions of Prince Arthur's affected that city. I didn't know that, you know, life or undead life still continued in that city. I thought, like, you know, everything was destroyed. Nothing would ever come back there again. It was abandoned, but clearly it's not abandoned. The undead are still there. I wonder if they're still there even after the Wrath of the Lich King has come to a close. I wonder were they still there, the undead. And this Crimson Red Crusade organization, I'm wondering, are they also still there? But yeah, it's quite interesting what happened there. It was the second biggest city besides Lordaeron, and it was the port city, very important, and Arthur's just purged it. He just killed everybody. He destroyed the infrastructure. He literally changed the face of that city into it becoming an undead playground. I still stand by my decision or my opinion in saying that he should have just waited. He should have just waited to see what happens to the city, and if when the people turn into zombies, then yeah, you can go and attack. But don't attack them now when they are not yet, you know, ill, or they are not showing any symptoms of them being infected with this disease or with this poison. So really, he should have just waited. He should have waited, and then maybe Uther and Jaina would have been there, you know, helping him and supporting him in taking care of the situation. So yeah, it's unfortunate what happened. It's really, really unfortunate. But yeah, guys, that was Stratholme Tragic Fate by platinumwow. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.